All right, friends, family, fans, welcome back. Another wonderful episode of Back Nine Bets, episode 12, with my good friend Michael Kavaliunas. He is the host of the CutlineGolf.com, the Cutline Golf podcast, and the person that puts together CutlineGolf.com's website, and as always, the ownership guru over there at RickRunGood.com. How are you doing, my bud?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. And
yes.
then I knew we'd get a little silly on the show, and so I wore my beer shirt. So
I love I've got stags and all sorts of stuff on my bush can, so I know you're drinking a nice Guinness that you just freshly poured. We're in for it. We got a great little schedule going on. We're going to do some rainmakers. We're going to chat quickly about Valspar. I have to vent about Spieth on the airwaves just a little bit, and then talk some rainmakers, talk some match play, talk a little bit of Corrales. We're going to have a good old time. So I'm looking forward to a good chat with you to get into your head and listen to your expertise and drink some beers, man. That's what we're here for at the most part. So, freaking Jordan Spieth, dude. He's a freaking nightmare. I don't bet him often, and I just single bulleted him pretty much. I had Sam Ryder as well last week. And I had a feeling Spieth was going to win it, and then it was looking so good for 70 holes. And then boom. So I'm very disappointed in him. I'm sad. The emotional roller coaster took a toll on me. Still looking for an outright this year. So that's why I'm wearing partly the clown wig. It's been a rough year for me. So I don't know. Did you have as rough a Valspar as I did, or?
In terms of outrights for the whole year, I'm in the same boat. Because last year, I think by this point, it's like at 5. And
wow, yeah.
And right now, I am just missing on so much. And of course, I'm keeping afloat. I play a lot of placement bets. I do a lot of matchup bets. I post those up on the website all the time. But you got to stick to your process and stick with your group. I got a good group of guys that we talk about the plays over and over and over again. They're just buddies, guys you'd want to drink at a bar with. So it's always fun to do that stuff. But man, I'm cold streak on the outright with you. It's kind of scary actually. Just like need to improve that quickly.
I had hit 2 Cam Smith outrights by this time last year. So that's kind of like once he left the tour, I knew I was going to be in shit because he was my golden ticket. I was always on him when he was winning, and he won a lot. And now he's not on tour anymore. So he's not even winning on live. So I can't even call that my golden parachute anymore. And the outright stuff. So at the start of my year, I had a problem with my model where I had strokes gain total pulling into my strokes gain off the tee column. So anything for off the tee was total. So there were guys that it was just a problem. So figured that out. Now we're bouncing back. Last week, dude, when I see people like Joel Damon and Gino Bonelli busy posting about being hungover from a birthday party that Gino had, and then Joel duffing or topping a fairway wood into the bunker and then not even changing clubs and just taking the fairway wood out of the bunker again and ripping it into the berm of the lip and making like triples and doubles and stuff. And you got a top 40 bet on the guy. And then he finishes like 60th or whatever. Like just the ejections over the weekend were brutal. Just a rough week, I did have a few also DFS lineups that I did the dummy ones, and I forgot to change them because they never showed up in my CSV file because they're like the fantasy golf degenerate ones. Had Tommy Fleetwood and Jordan Spieth locked into all of those. So I was like looking prime for those ones. So it was a good week in DFS, at least. It wasn't too crazy, but a bit of chaos. So
first week I lost money in DFS for me this
year. Really?
Yeah.
How do you do DFS?
All GPPs.
Wow.
I you know what? At the beginning of the year, I said, all right, we're doing cash. We're going to do cash because it's just the way to go. And it's just, I can't do it because I don't have the mental process to build cash lineups anymore. And it's an issue. It's a problem because.
Why? Because you're trying to just leverage off of guys all the time, or?
It's not just the leverage. Actually, what really kind of crushed it was doing the ownership projections. And when you start doing ownership projections, you get nitpicky about stuff and you really think about it from such like a tournament perception. And I saw the correlation when I really started getting serious with ownership that I was struggling with cash lineups.
Yeah. That's so weird.
And it kind of coincided because then I was like, well, I got to fix it somehow. And I know Kenny Kim does his cash game cornerstone on his show. So I started listening to that. And of course, he got cold. And I'm like, fuck. like I couldn't win here. Kenny's awesome though. He crushes and everything, but so I couldn't win. So I was like, forget it. Not going to commit to cash anymore. We're going to go back to the old strategy. Last year I tried the 150 max.
Okay.
Really committed to it throughout the whole year. It's fun. It is a lot of fun. It's a different game, but it wasn't for me. So I went back to my 20 max, 3 max, and single entry.
Okay.
And
Okay.
That's kind of where I like to sit and play.
Yeah, that's exactly me too. I think it's a nice balance of you can throw your own personal flair in there, and you're not completely relying on a robot to build your lineups for you, even though you're picking the guys who go in there. But yes, speaking of lineup optimizers and all that jazz, rotoballer.com is our sponsor of this podcast, and we are cooking over there now. Spencer just hit Taylor Moore last week. He hit him top 5, top 10 outright, and he hit Adam Schenk, I think, first round leader. The guy just hit every single thing. So it's good that someone at Rotoballer is actually doing some stuff so we can get some subscribers over there. Use code TOFF. I'm not even going to say Maniac because I don't deserve any of that profit. So go use code TOFF for 10% off there at rotoballer.com. Spence and I even have a new article coming out that we're going to be premiering for the Valero. It's a dual written piece, a little collaborative effort from us that I think the industry is going to really enjoy. And I'm loving my time over there at Rotoballer. So if you are not already a Rotoballer subscriber, please pop on over there and join us today. So that's what's cooking over at Rotoballer. We are here to talk some rainmakers. I am obsessed with this stuff because I went to school for 6 years, got 3.5 degrees, all in business and finance and stuff like that. So here I am sitting in a clown wig trying to pursue a career on a camera after doing all of that. But I'm so obsessed with the economic side of rainmakers. So for people, I'm going to just give a little quick intro on what rainmakers are if you haven't paid attention to what rainmakers is. It's a season-long player-based stock market. You can purchase players on an open market, or you can buy packs that you rip open for a certain predisclosed amount, and then you just get a lottery of players. You can use them to resell the guys to earn a profit off their market value, or you can use them to pay dividends by entering them into contests that are free. Once you've purchased the golfer, you have him to put into as many lineups throughout the year as you want. There's 5 rarity tiers that you have that are all different prices. Like the core and the rare are it's my avenue. That's my price range. I can't really get too frisky in the elite range there. That's just a little too spendy for me. But it's a 5-man team. It's not a 6-man team, which is interesting. And there's a captain, which is also fun, which, classic DFS doesn't have. So there's different entries. You get 150 maxes, 3 entries, and single entries. And then you can also just try and win cards back through the contest. So did I miss anything basic or significant in that little rundown?
No, I think it pretty much sums it up pretty decently. I think the one thing that is probably a common misconception with rainmakers is that a lot of people I hear, and I don't understand why, they call it like a stock market game.
Okay, that's what I just said. So
which
debunk that.
Which it's not.
Okay,
it's a marketplace game, but it's more of a season-long fantasy league because after the end of the PGA season, those cards are toast.
Okay,
they're not worth a thing. Now, the way to combat that is they have crafting coins and tokens and things where you can take those cards and transfer them to the next season. But beyond that, those core cards you got, gone. Garbage. So if you think about season-long fantasy, it's a different ballgame.
All right. So season-long fantasy, yes. So I had an idea of trying to put into effect a way that I could power rank these guys to make sure that they get into the Tour Championship, because I feel like that would be the peak time for a stock market kind of vibe to have increased demand for a player, because there's only going to be 30 guys that make it into that week. So people are going to be wanting to buy those cards if you can. So you could dump them at the end of the year, but also you're going to miss out on the revenue that you could generate from entering them into that contest, because you're going to have obviously guys that aren't necessarily as available and at a much cheaper price. So how are you approaching it? I guess you're doing the fantasy aspect of it. So you're going to be looking to try and benefit through the contest market versus the open market of selling and buying cards, or
I'm going to attack it both ways, but I think there's several types of ReignMakers players.
Okay, go for it.
I think your first is going to try to attempt to buy cards that they find valuable that they're going to keep and they're going to use in contests. So they're basically playing a fantasy game. So whatever they're willing to spend and hopefully, cash big in ReignMakers, that's something that they're willing to do. The second type of player is only going to look at that secondary market, and they're going to wait for deals and steals. And they're going to buy up the steals and sell them for profit. And we're talking for some of these profits minimum, like $2, right? But, you find 5 of those guys, that's $10 right there.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people who do that, and that's very profitable. Of course, if you don't sell something, what do? You throw it in the fantasy market and hope you cash.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a slow game, but at the end of this season, you most definitely can make some money on that. And I do that as well while I'm playing. For example, something I missed, and this was last week, there was an elite card for Vegas who sold for $5, and the guy came around and flipped it for 25. And it was within a minute. The guy who bought it flipped it and sold it for 25.
Jesus.
So he had a $20 profit. So you got to keep your eye out for those players in the marketplace. And where you get an advantage, or anyone who follows golf gets an advantage, is they're able to look at the layout of the land and see guys who are mispriced and take advantage of that. And of course, there's always the dummy who has a thumb slip on his phone, and instead of listing the guy for $50, lifts them for $5. I mean, that guy's going to be gone in seconds. You don't even have time to remove him from the marketplace. That's how sharp some of these guys are and how quick they're getting to it.
Yeah.
Now the third player is going for the franchise score.
Okay, that's the big spender.
That's the big spender, and the franchise player is going for the massive amount of money, massive amount of totals, your Reignmaker cards, your legendary cards, and trying to build up that kind of bankroll over time and that card stockpile to make massive amounts of cash. And again, these are guys that have a huge bankroll and are shelling out tons of money. And they're hoping for 2 things. They're not only hoping for that ReignMakers title or top 10 finish, because that's pretty lucrative, but they're also hoping that the cards they rip and get are going to be helpful in their daily fantasy, if that makes sense.
Yes,
so they can pull more legendary cards and everything of that nature. So now the last guy, which is not the guy I would suggest anyone be, is the guy buying packs.
Yes.
Now, buying packs is fun. Don't get me wrong. It's like whoever opened, those Fleer packs from 1984 and got the Jordan rookie card. Well, good for you. But, the chances of landing someone like that are like, you have to be so incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
So incredibly lucky in every pack that you open just to get someone. And it's really luck of the draw. Now, you can buy packs for fun. Don't get me wrong. You hit a GPP, got an extra $100 laying around. You want to buy a couple booster packs, go ahead. But there are packs that are more valuable. Save your money and buy those.
Yeah. And you get the different price packs, and obviously the more expensive ones, the better the cards are in there, but I think the problem with packs is if you don't have like a significant bankroll to just kind of roast through them, you can spend $2,000, I think, on one of the premium packs there and get a Reignmaker Rich Beam. There's players out there that are void, they're essentially not on tour, and I don't know what DraftKings was thinking putting them in. Like, why do we have a Rich Beam? Like Joshua Creel. I don't even know if this guy's on tour. Just random names like that don't play on tour. And if you're spending money on a pack and you're getting a elite card that's void, essentially, that's just a waste of money, in my opinion, right? So I'd rather spend money on the open market and target guys that you think have the value, right? That, like you mentioned, the first and second type players that you mentioned.
Right. And that's unfortunate for those. I think Saul Goodman posted his Reignmaker play or legendary pick that he got, and it was like, I think those packs sold for like $2,000.
Yes, $2,000.
he got someone like Dick Bland. And I was like, oh my God. And it was the worst I had seen, like hands down. And I felt so bad. Saul Goodman's a great DFS player. So
yeah,
he's ripping all of us on Twitter too for our golf content. I love that. But he I saw the guy he put, and I felt terrible for him because I'm like, oh man, that's a rough one. Because you go into that right expecting someone decent.
yes,
Like, okay, fine. If I get Rahm, that would be ideal. Scheffler, whatever. But at least give me someone like, I don't know, at least Scott Piercy, right? Like, fine,
yes,
bottom of the barrel,
usable.
but serviceable. All right.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, dude. I know, because I was talking to Andy from BetSperts, and he said one of his buddies spent some fat cash and got a Rich Beam. I mean, when last did Rich Beam swing a club on TV? So it's no good there on the pack side of things, but it's really interesting because I spent $23 on my first set of call cards, thinking I'm going to just be this measly miser kind of guy. Next thing I know, I'm $1,000 deep on rare cards now. So I've gone off the deep end, but I want to share some, just like, because this is like a learning experience. I haven't seen too much content about Reignmakers out there, and I spent $23 on 5 golfers: Nick Taylor, Ryan Armour, Higo, McNeely, and Ryder, and they've gone down in market value by about $8.50. So it is definitely, when guys are playing, their value's up, and then when they're not, that's the problem. Like, you can't just sell them the next week because there's no demand for them, right? So but that's core. I don't know. Rare is a different beast. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't been in that yet, but they managed to. I got a 5 for 5 there just with those 5 guys. So I managed to double my money. So I'm $5 into the 23 I spent. So I'm $18 left, and I can start breaking even eventually. But breaking even is going to be a problem now because now I've gone into the rares where I felt like you got to risk more to get more, right? And rares, I feel like the increase in the card value can definitely be significant there. And I found a few max homers that I feel like are significantly underpriced right now. So are there any golfers that you like right now that you don't? I mean, also that's kind of trade secrets and stuff, but I mean, there's probably 100 people that might listen to this by the time we're done.
There's no necessarily like players that I'm looking for, but I'm always looking for value. Yeah. So if I see a guy that is of value, I'm going to try to grab that guy and snag him. So like you talk about Josh Creel, and everyone was saying, okay, I don't know like who this Josh Creel is. Regardless, everyone's trying to sell him for $2. You find him for 25 cents, buy him, right? So that's kind of like the route you're going initially, especially with those core plays. People just want to get rid of guys they don't know. And like, that's kind of like the key that we're looking at here.
So do you just sit and watch, or is there something that you can use to find these, or is it like it's a time sensitive thing?
I can't tell you that.
Okay. Well, that kind of almost answers the question, right? So
I have some ways to maybe get them a little bit quicker than others, but
no, that's good to know. So it's something that you need to be aware of, that if you're just sitting there watching, the marketplace, you're in second place already, basically. So, there's no.
That's not necessarily true. I cannot say that, because there are guys that just simply go overlooked because people are not looking at the right time. It's not like everyone has a leg up on someone because they have a certain advantage. Like I'll wake up at 2:30 in the morning and I'll look, because no one's going to be looking at 2:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And I'll be like, I'll spend a couple minutes, take a look, and see what happens, and go from there. And if there's nothing, all right, that's fine. Go back to bed, and we'll go from there. But long story short, like, there's a lot of opportunity and upside in Reignmakers, and I don't think people are really keen on that and aware of it. And I think part of it is twofold. Yeah, Reignmakers started with NFL. And NFL just simply burned people, like it always does.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second thing is, now you're at UFC, and you're at the luck of the draw with the pack that you receive. And it's a little bit different. With golf, you got a long-term game. You have players that are going to play every weekend. It's a different ball game. It's a lot of fun. And I just think there's a lot of people who are more inclined and more interested in something that, if they're investing in it, can spend time with it.
Yeah.
And lastly, like, I keep talking about value and price, but if there's a guy you want, go get him. Like, you want them, you think they're going to help you win money, go get them. Because there's a lot of, like, every entry in ReignMakers is free. That's what people forget. Like, you're not paying for these entries.
It's an upfront purchase. Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, you know, if you landed Scheffler on that first drop, you've been having a great year so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I had Rahm, and the first time he got out playing for me, he shit himself. So literally couldn't quite get out there with him. So what I have discovered, Michael, is that you can, if you're doing the rare tier of play, I've noticed, and I thought I was smart, but obviously, you know, lots of people are doing this, but 4 rares that you can get for, like, where you can find some real good value. And then you can use a 5th card that's a core card that's significantly less priced than the other rare cards that you can find. So for instance, I've been throwing in like Scotty Scheffler or John Rahm or something like that nature into your lineup as a core card in the rare category. What is the problem with that? Or is that a good way to go about it, like from a gameplay perspective?
So what you're saying is, instead of like having Scheffler as your rare play, you're having him as a core play?
Right. So I don't want to spend $300 on a Scotty Scheffler. I want to spend $40 for a core Scotty Scheffler, and then slide him in there and still get the points that he can generate for me, but at a $40 value versus $300, because I know that he's super expensive. I'll spend my other money on rare cards that I find a little cheaper or more value, because I think Scotty's pretty much at the peak of his price point right now. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't monitored this market for long enough, but when there's a guy that's really expensive that I want in my lineup, I'll go grab a core edition of him and slide him into my my rare lineups, because you need 4 rares and 1 core, and then that's the way to go, in my opinion. I don't know.
Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that, because every card gets the same amount of value, minus your captain.
Points, right.
Right. It's all about points. It's not the rarity of the card. The card value, or I'm sorry, the status of the card, like if it's a rare, allows you to enter particular contests.
Yes.
Okay. So obviously entering contests which requires 4 rares is going to up the payout.
Yes.
Entering contests that has legendary status is going to up the payout. So while you're taking your Scheffler and playing him in your lineup as a core, so say you need 4 rares and 1 core, that doesn't matter. Okay. You like Scheffler that weekend, you're playing him, whether it's a rare or a core, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now, what's going to matter is 2 things. It's going to who you roster in your captain spot. It's going to get you more points, just like a showdown. And then the second thing is the value of the card. And what I mean, or sorry, the number of the card.
Edition number.
The edition number. So say you and I put the same exact lineup in.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a tie. Like the same exact lineup in, but I have edition number 26 and you have edition number 25, you win.
Yes. Let's go, baby. But
so
that's
why
right?
That's why the edition is so important.
Right. So I've also noticed, like, I'll see, because there's in the rare section, I'm going to use that as my benchmark. There's 3 different types of cards that you can get. You get edition count of 120. You can get edition count of 240, and then edition count of 600. And until I prepared for this podcast, I was just thinking, okay, that's the capped, you know, that 120, 240, 600 is what counts as the edition number. Turns out there's actual 1 through 120 in that range. So if you go into 600 and you can find a 27 of 600, that still counts the same as a 27 of 120, right? Like for the contest.
For the contest, yes.
Yes, but for the market value, the rarity isn't going to be as valuable.
The rarity is valuable in that. So like when you look at the Genesis set, and to anyone who's getting into Rainmakers, there's different sets. There's the prize set, the Genesis set. There's your core like starter set and everything like that. There's these different packs. And if you collected cards,
I just want to jump in quickly. Genesis is the starting pack. It's not the Genesis Invitational pack, because that came out very similar time. So I got confused with that as well. So yeah, keep going.
So certain cards have less value, right? Like a prize pack, it has more cards in it than say like the Genesis set.
Yeah.
And they're rare. So like you're taking advantage of the set and the rarity of it. Like there are things you just need to realize. Like if you're ever gonna for me to ever land a Rainmaker, I need someone who owns a Rainmaker to do the phone slip and put a $5 one in there, and I happen to be there at the right time.
Right.
But of course, like you could win contests, and if you win those contests, not only are they massive payouts, they give you prize packs with that, and they might give like certain contests might give like a legendary pack. And that's what DraftKings is doing right now, by the way. And a lot of people are pissed about it because they're giving away a ton of packs.
And it's just diluting the market.
Not necessarily, because eventually they're going to have another drop.
Okay.
So all of our Genesis cards lose a lot of value.
Okay.
Because they're going to have another drop, which is going to be more valuable, which is going to be more lucrative to the contest you can enter. And then those older core cards in the Genesis packs are not going to get you in the same contest in terms of things that you need to be successful to gain wealth or money, or not wealth, but money in the marketplace. So like they're going to come out with new packs and new drops.
What is the new packs like? What does that mean? Like why are the players in that new pack better?
Well,
or more valuable than the old pack?
Because what they'll do is they'll open up contests that required you have X number from that pack.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm
that
VIP.
So that contest will provide amazing benefits versus like a core, right? Now everyone's going to stick with the core, right? Okay, I'm going to build my core. I'm going to get all top 150 on the official world golf rankings. Well, fun. Great. Now, not only that, you got to put them in a lineup. You got to hope you put them in the right lineup. And then all these other packs are dropping. So that core first thing that's kind of worth a lot right now kind of vanishes. And it's like where that top prize is maybe only a couple $100, maybe less than that.
Interesting. You see, I just know what I've learned from literally 2 weeks worth of this, right? So it's like, I'm so happy to have you on here to learn all this stuff, because I didn't realize that we've got these like imaginary benchmarks that we're trying to get to, and they can just keep moving the goalpost on you in a way, which I can understand how people can be frustrated about it. But also, if you know what's going on, you can take advantage of that, right? So yeah, that's
a key thing is to go to the DraftKings Discord.
Okay.
They have like the PGA ReignMakers Discord, and you can like, if you're going to tell me DraftKings is not observing that and seeing what people are saying, you're full of it. So anyone who's got a gripe or is upset about things, like they have heard loud and clear, not to beat a dead horse, but people who bought those $2,000 Rainmaker packs and ended up with a guy who's not even going to play.
Yeah.
Don't worry. They'll treat those guys right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you should hope so, right? Because you're purchasing a product from them that you want repeat buyers. And I asked them in the Discord if there could be a CSV download that you can get for the prices available on the market for that particular moment. Like if I just want to click a download so I can put it into an Excel file. They said, sure, we don't have that, but we've taken note of it. So the Discord has been quite interactive and friendly. So yeah, I can say I've had a good experience in there too. I don't know if they've actioned on anything that I've said, but who the hell am I anyway, right? So it's an interesting situation, dude. It's so fun, because these cards. So is there a particular like value that you're looking for from the different editions, like just how it looks, or or is it
Well,
strictly to the listing number that provides that value?
Well, I'm value hunting though, but I'm betting on futures. So here's what I mean is that you're going into, say, Corrales, and you're looking for a Joel Damon, right?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not looking for anyone who's playing in Corrales.
Yes.
I'm looking for people who are playing 3 or 4 tournaments from now that are not even on anyone's radar. So if I'm going to start searching for players, start looking for value, that's where I'll start. And a lot of people who get a card, and they'll be like, well, this guy's not even in the tournament coming up. Well, they're selling them for nothing. And then all of a sudden come tournament time, it's like, oh, hey, okay, that guy's pretty valuable now. So that's kind of where you're kind of hunting.
Okay, I'm with you.
And then price is obviously going to go down, not significantly, but price is going to go down based on recent performance. People get mad at having Justin Thomas, who's been, let's be realistic, not elite.
No, anything but, right?
So they're pricing him down, trying to get rid of him so they can get the money for Justin Thomas to pay up and get someone they want. But if you're going to sit there and that's where you take advantage.
No, that makes complete sense, because I think Keegan was sitting at like $100 at pop, and then he withdrew, and then people just started dumping him. They're like, oh, I don't want Keegan this week anymore. Now I'm just going to waste all my money I spent on this guy and just sell him. So yeah, there's people that do it for the long run, and there's people like me that don't know what the fuck they're doing and just clicking buttons thinking I've got a guy that's a cheap 120, but there's, he's like 119 out of the 120, when there's other ones that are like 17 out of 240, which I never realized until just a few days ago. So I think that's a big distinguishing factor there.
I think the biggest misconception, we talked about it right at the beginning, was that everyone thinks that they have these cards forever, but you don't.
So is it Tour Championship, or is it the year, or is it even less than that?
I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to bank on it is going to be the Tour Championship.
Okay.
Because there are people who are going to plan ahead for that.
Right. Because that was I do have some benchmarks that I want to try and, I don't want any guys that are outside. In my ranking system that I have, I've got the priority list for tour events. You don't want to pick a guy that's sitting 140th on the priority list. You want him to have some sort of tour status. And the beautiful thing about this year is we've got elevated events and non-elevated events, which you can buy a guy that's really good, but his priority isn't as good as he is a golfer. And then he lands up playing on all these shit tours, the non-elevated events at like Corrales and stuff, like a Dietrich or someone like that, who is way better than everyone else in that field over a period of time. So if you can find a guy that's not necessarily making it into these elevated events, but should and can play in them, I think that's also a sneaky little spot. So those are two little things that I've been trying to figure out.
I will give you one guy I think whose price is going to tank soon. He needs like one more miscut, maybe two, is Aaron Wise.
Really?
Like that, 2 years now, right? Everyone's been all about Aaron Wise.
Yeah.
And he's just missing cuts like crazy. Kind of hoping he just kind of falls apart here at the match play, but that's kind of like where you're at, right? Like you got to play the market based on people's perceived value, right?
Correct.
Like you started the show with, oh my God, I'm pissed off at Jordan Spieth. And all I'm thinking is like, I am hammering Jordan Spieth in any way I can right now to gain an advantage.
Right. But Jordan Spieth isn't a rainmaker, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
He's not, but that's just an example of
like Joel Damon for me. That's why I haven't bought any Joel Damon this week, because I don't even know what him and Gino are doing out there in Corrales. Just causing, those two are bad news, those boys.
Well, Joel Damon's trying to win again.
Well, the last time he was out at Corrales, he withdrew. I think he had a hangover. Like those two have got a drinking problem. I tell you, as we sit here pounding bushes and Guinnesses, but
I'm pretty sure you would too if you had to this answer and survive.
And I mean, they're so much fun, you know. So I get it. But I'm pissed because I had him. He was looking so good for the top 40, and then just shit it. So no good on Joel. But speaking of Aaron Wise, let's transition a little bit before we get into match play. Is there a way that you build, because now you can build a super freak lineup because you can get all the best players, right? Because there's no salary involved in Reignmakers. The salary is your own budget that you have to buy these cards for. You can just plug these guys in and cause it like a Golden State Warriors super team type vibe. And that's interesting because that typically doesn't always hit, you know, like last week Hadwin missed and things like that. But there's game theory behind all of this. There's captain spots. You know, I think you can really get aggressive with the captain, obviously. But do you try and throw a few random strays in there, or are you trying to like really just load up and then benefit off of your card count? But I don't think that even matters. How often do you draw with someone in a contest as well?
It really kind of depends on the contest itself. And then it also depends on how many people enter. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't call it overlay in Reignmakers. There is no overlay.
Yeah.
But like some of those contests were light. So it would make more sense if you're just willing to cash, like to pick the top plays and get as many entries as you can, build consistent, solid lineups. But you know, just like in DFS, the way to win is to get contrarian. The thing is, though, is that people, it's different because you're not given a salary, correct? Right. So, like, you get to the Masters and, okay, I want Rory core card, I'm going to buy him. I want Spieth core, I'm going to buy him. I want Rahm core, I'm going to buy him. I want Scheffler, and then I want, you know, Zalatoris. So I got those 5. And then all of a sudden, 4 of them finish, you know, barely top 30. And you've got guys like Sungjae Im finishing top 5. Or Corey Connors doing what Corey Connors does at Augusta, finishing top 10.
Yes.
And, or, you know, and one of the things is you can read is in like DFS, people are going to devalue guys. So my best Masters, I was all over Decky, hoping for the strong putting performance. And I finally got it. And, you know, he won me a lot of money at the Masters because he was so low owned. If Reignmaker's been around at that point, he was a guy that you were going to pivot to. Now, another thing is that's nice about Reignmakers is, and people don't realize this, you don't need just one card. Like you can go in on multiple versions of a card and play them in different lineups. Because once you play a card in a lineup, that card cannot be played in additional contests.
Correct.
So, like if you have Scheffler rare and you have 6 versions of it, that's 6 entries with a rare Scotty Scheffler. Like it's ideal.
Yeah, that's it. You know, that's the thing. And it's so cool. That's what I've been doing with Max is I'm kind of loading up on some Maxes. You know, I think he's my boy. I think he's going to be flying up this leaderboard just soon. And he's like half the price of Rahm and Scotty and Rory and JT, which is interesting. Right, Max Homer, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but we'll see. I have no idea how these cards are going to value either, Mike. Like, have you noticed any like particular moments in a season where it's also been a super short season with golf, right? This has only been what, week 3 now that we're in,
right? Golf's hard because like we're so early into the Reignmakers, you don't know how people are going to treat certain things.
No.
Like I'm surprised right now that JT Poston's getting the love that he's getting. But
he's just throwing bricks from 3 feet every time he's on TV.
But I mean, he's like $40-$50 for a rare JT Poston. So it's not like people are sleeping. You just gotta pick your spots, pick your battles, and take advantage.
Amen.
Like just looking at right now on Reignmakers, like if Brandon Hagee's your guy, you can get him for $6
for a rare.
Yeah.
Because what a core card? I don't know. Just dumbing it down for people that haven't done this. A core Brandon Hagee would be what, $1.
Probably less.
or yeah, somewhere in that ballpark, right? Like it's 6 to 10 times more for a rare than a core ish.
Right. Like a Jinjun Zhang rare right now, $6.80. Which
who?
Exactly. But like the guy's made cuts before, and you're gonna give me the rare contest to give me a guy who could potentially top 25 and no one will have him, and they're selling them for $6. So
yeah, dude. It's interesting. So I just want to mention one more thing before we get off of ReignMakers and start chatting some match play. The difference between 3 entry max and single entry, because I don't have enough cards to do 150 yet, but 3 entry and single entry, in the red section right now, they're offering like a single entry is a GPP basically, whereas the 3 entry is called a bankroll builder, which is a really interesting term to introduce to people, but it's basically a double up or cash lineup type play. You got to get inside the top 50, get $50 last week in my rare contest. So, and I found that a lot more people entered the single entry than the 3 entry. So if you're looking to just get really cheap cards with low edition counts that you're not too worried about, in those single entries, because if you're tying in a double up, as long as you're not bone last, you're just going to get pushed down the leaderboard and still make that $50, but not be fourth. I think the edition counts really make a difference when you're trying to win GPPs, right? If God forbid you have 3 or 4 cards more than, like you mentioned earlier, and you go from winning $1,000 to $250 because of your edition.
Right. And that's what it comes down to. Like if you're going to give advice and like you see a price difference of, $3 to get the higher edition, I would always take the higher edition just for that risk. Because you never know who's going to enter what. Yeah.
So I'm trying to like portion off my cards into single entry guys and bankroll builders, where I have like the crappy edition now counts, which I don't think I'm too concerned about in those 3 entries, which we'll see how that works out for me. I'll come back to y'all, but it's interesting, right? Because you get all these different edges and things that not a lot of people realize are out there even. So it's so new. So it's so new. Like I'm so uncomfortable talking about this because I don't know shit about it. That's why I'm so happy you're on here, because I'm still learning and stuff. But it's really intriguing, man, and it's exciting.
Well, if as you get into it, you're gonna have to make changes to your process.
Yes,
because like it's like card value, card type, the stock, the category, it's all going to get amplified as we get further and further into the season. Who knows what's going to drop around Augusta, right? And how much they're going to cost. But like, here's a concept to think about. Like core and rare cards, they have no limit on their mint count. All right.
You're right.
So you're getting these prize packs which have these guys that are rare cards, fine, but there's no limit on their count. And this is where you really want to get into like the elite, legendary, and ReignMakers, because there's a printed max. Can't have more.
Okay.
There is a value to that when you can't have more. That's when guys are like, I need that guy, and you list them. No one picks them, so you list them a little higher. And finds like, I need that guy, and they buy it. So that's kind of like where the concept is. So you got to think about, well, how am I going to A, make enough money to buy those cards individually, or B, win contests to get those packs. And that's kind of like where you should be at.
Okay. So that's the thing. Because I was going to say, because I've spent like $1,000 for me is a hefty amount. I don't bet much more than like $250 a week on DFS. So, but that's also for the whole time that you have it. So you have to also remember that $1,000 is going into every single week. You don't have to be entering those cards. You can halve it and third it every time you enter these guys in the contest. So that helps. But like, what would you say for people looking to get into the elite tier? Because for me, I just like, I'm looking at a Seamus Powers for $180 a card. kind of thing, like that, or whatever. I might have misquoted the price, but it's just a really expensive tier 4 person like that's looking to spend maybe $1,000 to get into, because you can probably get what, like Scotty Scheffler is over $1,000 in elite world, right? Like sitting at what, $2,500 maybe.
Well, this is where you're going to speculate and kind of look at future tournaments, right? You got an elite Callum Tarrant right now for $55 listed 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Now, if you know in the future where Callum Tarrant's valuable, like take him by all means. If you find Callum Tarrant valuable at $55, so like this is where you're gonna have to justify and kind of come up with your own concept of as to what is valuable. Like there's an EVR right now being sold for $160. I am not going to buy an elite EVR for $160 for a guy who barely makes cuts. So like it's really just what you value, correct? Because like all these markets are pretty much arbitrary, and the way to get away with it is if you find people who make mistakes, and then you buy them up, and you can obviously, like there's an elite Stuart Sink, $45 right now. I think there's some value to that, in my opinion.
Right.
So it's Paul Barjon, French golfer, is available. I don't even know if you know who Paul Barjon is, but like I do. But like it's like he's $30. Guy, I think he's made like 1 or 2 cuts. I don't even know if he's had a top 40 finish. But what happens if you got Paul Barjon for like $30 as an elite? You join the elite, and he ends up with a top 5, which ends up smashing for you. Not only do you get your $30 back, you get additional cash, plus you get all the card drops. Like it's like this is what you're trying to do. You're playing a game,
banking on upside.
Rules to the game, and you just got to play by those rules.
Hey, dude. I love it, man. That was so cool. Like I'm excited, and I think you can try and sneak your way into these elite contests, because what the elites are three elites and 2 rares that you need.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So if you can sneak like 3 cheeky Stuart Sinks and Callum Tarrants into a contest, and then you put your rare Max Homer in there with him, but are they going to be playing in the same contest or not? Who the hell knows? But I think there's you can edge your way into the club. I guess is the way I'm trying to say it.
I will say this: if you get your elite Stuart Sink, Paul Barjon, and that gets you to the top of the leaderboard, people are gonna be MFing you pretty bad. Like, who the hell is this guy?
I know, but like, I don't know.
I'll say this: I never thought I would ever mention Paul Barjon on like any show or podcast, and here I am.
We're talking about, oh Jesus, yeah, no, but if you look at us, that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, no, that's interesting, dude. I really appreciate your insights into the whole ReignMakers situation.
Yeah,
it's there's some obviously things that we have to learn some more, but it's been a fun journey so far. I think it'll be fun for people to get caught on to this, because I think do you think the contest will increase with more people? They'll adjust, or the contests are fixed? The amount of money that's available out there, I think, is fixed, right?
The amount of money is fixed.
Yeah.
But the entries some of the entries are unlimited, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't looked this week yet. I just kind of reserved spots for contests I had interest in. But like just like any week, I'll build my ReignMakers lineups the night before. Looking at the weather and looking at weather draws and whatever the case may be. And a lot of people don't do that, right? They they don't have a pool to pick from. They have who they've purchased. And so like you're kind of handcuffed unless you go to the market and buy the guys that you need.
Yeah. You got make money, spend money to make money, right? That's the motto. So also where you can find value. So yes. Shall we get into... Go for it.
Quade Cummings, elite, 31.98, 4 minutes.
I'm going to just be scraping the bottom of the barrel of these elites, and I'm going to like put them into these. You're going to see me in these contests like bone last, and it's because I've got Paul and Quade and Stuart after you've recommended them, and they're sitting stocks alien there. Boys, girls, we are on to the WGC Dell Technologies Matchplay Championship. It's going to be a week, friend. We've got 8 of the top 10 in the world doing this. I'll pop this model in and out. We can chat, but it's also nice to see the names. So we've got. What is your general philosophy? I've got my Engage 8. I've bet all my 8 guys. They're all from each different octet, or 2 from each quadrant, essentially. Last year I got Kisner into the final, but I was out in Mississippi and I couldn't hedge my bets. And even though if I wanted to hedge them, Scotty was sitting at like minus 180. So I had no shot, but it seemed like it was a principle or strategy that worked for me. We'll see what we can get up to. I'm not entirely sure if it'll work again, but I'm going to bet the guys to get out of their pool. Hopefully I can break even, at least if like 3 or 4 of them get out of there. But they are all very heavily, like, I think I got one. Max Homer is 25-1. That's the only guy I have that's less than 75-1. So it's quite the card that we'll get to you. But what is your go-to for this week, my bud?
So for like a betting standpoint, because of the
we can chat
randomness,
DFS as well.
You want to do DFS or you want to do gambling?
We can just like roll in and out of it however you want. Like we can go through each thing and talk shit and bets and DFS or whatever.
Okay, we'll start with DFS.
Okay.
And then for people who don't know, you can go to cutlinegolf.com and see the course reports. I put course reports for both tournaments this week. So you have the WGC Dell Matchplay, and then you have the Corrales up there. So you can read about the course report and everything like that. For the Matchplay, obviously it's building optimal lineups. Correct. Like you want a shot at getting, like you don't want anyone playing within the same, like you don't want to draft Scheffler and
I'll zoom in on this, but you don't want anyone from the orange on the same side of the bracket. So correct. Yellow, green, blue. You want to pick one guy from each of those colors, essentially, is why I kind of color coded them that way. But yeah, because you don't want them to run into each other.
But and you ideally want to get 4 to the final 4, and then get your 2 in the championship, and you're playing your own self-elimination game, but that's what you're trying to do. So my process though is to identify guys that I think can win, and then within the group, and it's not just one guy. I will try to go with 2, and what I want is the guy who I think is going to win, and then the guy who I think is the sleeper.
Okay. From a pod or a group? Let's establish some terms here. Like is this a group or is this a group from like a 4-person pod thing?
Right, from a group.
Okay, cool.
So like, for example, like if you're looking over at what I think is a really tough group draw, like group 2 is Rahm, Horschel, Mitchell, and Fowler. And I'll think of like ownership leverage. People are gonna go with. They're absolutely gonna go with someone like Jon Rahm, right? Why wouldn't you? The guy's been on fire.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, it's not like Ricky Fowler's been that bad.
No,
it's not like Keith Mitchell's been that bad.
And Billy's got great course history here too, right? So like, it's interesting.
So and honestly, like I look at that group and I like Rahm obviously for what he's done, but if I'm going from a DFS perspective, I'm going straight to Ricky Fowler. Fowler's been, of the 4 of them, in terms of like your last 4 events or 4 rounds, Fowler's been on fire. So I'll look for that edge. One thing I'm not going to do, because it's such a narrative, is looking at President's Cups, looking at just any kind of match play contest that you can see where the stakes are higher, right? Like you look at a Ryder Cup, that's not the same thing as the WGC Dell Matchplay. Like if Scheffler was missing putts on that Sunday, he wasn't ruining things for his country, right?
Yes,
he was just getting a lesser paycheck. So like I don't take a lot of stock into that concept or idea.
No, I completely agree with that, dude. There's a lot of narratives going on. I think if you can get off of guys that are good putters, but still find them with like an elite skill set, That's also another way I think you can get different this week, because everyone, including myself, like all the guys that I've bet, have some sort of short game skill, and I think that's a general philosophy about match plays. If you can box putts, you're in the hole, right? Like, it's interesting.
I think though, like for me, like my build process for the week is simply look at your lineups, build with lineups of guys that you really like, and then build with guys that you think are kind of like sleepers.
Right.
I think Ricky Fowler's a big sleeper this week. So if we're gonna just like, well, we should probably start with group one, I guess.
Sure.
Just go through group by group.
Cool. And before we do that, I just want to mention, if you're watching on YouTube, this 3 opponent average is just the average odds for this group. So basically, like Scotty Scheffler's opponent averages, their average odds to win the tournament is 82. So like, obviously everyone else in his group's got much lower odds because Scotty Scheffler's 81. So that's kind of just a way to establish, like if you look at this, like you mentioned, this group 2 is just a shit show. It's like a bloodbath, right? So everyone's going to be staying clear of that. And it's a nice way to see where you can probably find some leverage and stuff. So yeah, group 1, Scotty, Tom, Alex Noren, Davis Riley.
I love Scheffler. Won here last year. Been on a tear for 2 years now. I hate Tom Kim. And this is an ownership. Okay. This is an ownership fade because people are going to get cute and they're going to be like, okay, we're going to roster Tom Kim because of how he did at the President's Cup. But that's just a sheer DFS ownership fade. Not to say that he can't win, like he can.
Right.
And then my pivot from those two would most definitely be Davis Riley.
Yes, it's interesting because I keep saying interesting on the show, but like Davis Riley, he's so peculiar when it comes to getting into contention. Anytime he gets close to the lead, him and Patrick Rogers and Taylor Montgomery, I think, are all very similar in not skill level, but in the same pattern where they just get to the top of the leaderboard and then they kind of shit their pants a little bit when they get a little too nervous at the top there. When you finish T6 a while at API, he did it from teeing off 2 hours before everyone. How does that affect a golfer in match play? Like, it's 1v1. Is there, how much of that anxiety, performance anxiety, rolls over into match play versus a full tournament?
I think it's completely different.
I think so too.
And
so I like it.
Like they don't. Yeah. You're not worried about a double bogey. You're not worried about the shot that went in the water. Okay, next hole.
Exactly.
Like
you got a 12-foot par putt, you can burn it by 7 feet. It doesn't matter if you make it or miss it. It's the same thing.
I mean, if we're going matchup play, you and I pipe my drive down the middle, and you hit it OB, like I'm not going to try to play for birdie. I'm going to play conservative and be like, okay, a bogey here wins this hole. And obviously that's between amateur golfers, pros, it's the same ball game, right? They know they can win with a par, they will.
Yeah.
And they won't go flag picking.
Yeah.
Or flag hunting.
No, I totally agree. And that's the thing. I was looking on the freaking PGA Tour website. They don't have double bogey or worse scores out there. There's like 6 over par scoring metrics that they provide you now. It's like ridiculous. So I was really going to look and see whose like scoring average is really impacted by double bogeys, because we'll get there. I want to talk about Aaron Wise and this particular part of it when we get to him, because I think his game has been really bad from a blow up perspective, where it's not like consistently bogey. It's like triples, doubles that just derail his round right at the end. But we can get there. So Davis Riley, your pivot, and Scotty's your main guy in this range.
For sure.
And are you going one per like pod, or are you going to be kind of picking between 8 guys? Or I guess do you want to go 1 down to 16, kind of go down the side here and then get to 2? Or
I honestly, I don't have the like what I'm going to do in terms of like valuing my plays yet. Because I got a website to build. I got this to build, but like from each pod, like I'll pick my guys. Right. And then I'll try to construct lineups that I think are going to be contrarian to what most are going to play. But like, here's the thing, like however ownership shakes out, like Davis Riley's going to give you leverage. right? Like you don't need to have 5 different crazy low-owned pivots to get a different lineup. You only need one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that one guy is Davis Riley and he makes it all the way to the Final Four, and you have like 2 or 3 of the Final Four, like that's massive.
Right.
So like you don't have to get too different in your lineup construction. But the thing I love about this event itself is just the volatility of it.
Yes.
There's so much that can happen, and it was so fun to watch last year.
Dude, 8, like that's the thing, is you think how many people are going to be focusing on last year versus what happened before that, with 8 of the top seeds making it out last year, like half of them. Is it still going to be as volatile?
Not thinking about the year Rahm was the only top seed that made it out.
Yes.
Like it's just there's not enough data to support one strategy is better than the other at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And for the tournaments I play in, I will always lean towards the more contrarian side.
Amen, dude. And it's fun. We've come right out of the Florida swing where I've been like preaching like pivot your face off with all this water and stuff, and now we get to match play where you got to basically do the same thing again. But also, you know, like you mentioned, don't have to have a million different plays of leverage. You can just roll with Davis Riley, because I mean, who's going to kick Davis with Scotty in there?
Nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Who wants to go against Scotty Scheffler right now?
Exactly.
Like
that is a scary click, man.
Like he's the best golfer in the world right now.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like I drafted him in my Rick Run Good League for fantasy. I knew I was going to draft Scotty Scheffler. I've been all about him for the last 3 years. It was maybe a year too early, I guess, but still, like the guy, and then his persona, his personality, how he just lets things kind of roll off. Like I love it, dude.
He's so even keeled, and also like, how many people are going to tell you that he cried on his wife's shoulder the day of, you know, he won the Masters? Like, you know, like to be okay with that it's something that it's so humbling and so incredible. Like he's got it. He just gets it, you know. I wonder when he's going to buy a new car, because I think he still rides his old car.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with an old car.
As long as it's your trusty Rusty, dude. So, any hoozles. So, Sungjae, Tommy, JT, Mav. I've got a Mav, 110 to 1. I can't remember the exact number, but I've got all these boys at like 80 plus. So, Maverick McNeely played well here last year, and he's the best putter in this field, essentially, over the last 50 rounds. And he's $6,800. So I think a lot of people are going to be liking Tommy, especially after how he's been playing, you know, not closing out at least, but playing good golf of late. I like Mav in this box, you know. Is there anyone in particular that you fancying in the pod 16, group 16?
If you're going to look at like recent form, I really like Fleetwood and JT Poston and Sungjae Im. But if I'm going to have to pick the two, it would probably be Fleetwood and Poston. And it's nothing against Sungjae Im. He can most definitely get a hot putter. But it's probably it's mitigated by the size of these greens to where putting on this Bermuda surface isn't as extreme. But Sungjae has never been the strongest Bermuda putter. And I feel like putting such a leverage in like a matchup play, to where if Tommy Fleetwood can consistently get close or hit some, you know, 15, 20 footers, or if you look at like someone like JT Poston, who recently has been dynamite on Bermuda. I don't know if he's necessarily figured it out, because historically he's not been that good, but I like looking at recent form with this matchup particularly. And then the last thing, JT Poston's just been dialed in on approach,
dude.
Like, yeah, at 6,300, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane if JT Poston gets out of this round. A lot of people are going to lean towards Sungjae, which why wouldn't you? I get that, but for me, it's Fleetwood and JT Poston in this bracket or in this group.
Yeah, no, I can definitely get behind. Also, I'd probably fade Sungjae in this range too. JT is interesting, man. He could have. A friend of mine had an outright on him last week, and he was like, "This guy could be leading the tournament right now had he not missed 3 putts, 5 foot, 3 foot, and 3 foot." Like he's got major issues from that range recently, and I think that's concerning to me. But do you think they're gonna like let him putt that out, or are they gonna make him like, can he pick it up from? Because that's the range he's been sucking from.
Sergio's not here this year, so I think he'll be allowed to pick it up.
Yeah, and I feel like Tommy, Sungjae, and Mav are probably not going to necessarily be that dickish anyway, right?
I hope not.
No, I agree. Victor, Chris Kirk, Siwoo Kim, Matt Kuchar, 96, 78, 75, 71. As you can see there, I've got myself a purple Matt Kuchar. And you're going to hate me because I said, and this guy, he's an ultimate competitor, bro. Like, he doesn't give a shit. Like, I don't care how old you are. I don't care. Matt Kuchar.
Yeah, he doesn't tip either.
I know. I just did a Photoshop of all my 8 guys, and I wanted to put Matt Kuchar in there as like this banker, like just walking around with a briefcase and just not giving a shit about anyone's pockets. But I think, I don't know, like it's the same thing as Joel. Like if he doesn't tip, who cares? Like I just want him to win me match play tournaments. So I don't know about Matt. I think he's in a tough group here too. Like these guys are pretty consistent. It's like not anyone elite in this range, but they all 4 got a pretty good shot at getting out of here. But do they? Because they all got a good shot. Like it's an interesting box, this one.
For me, it's pretty easy. Like, I love Victor Hovland. I know he frustrates and infuriates tons of people out there, but I'm still a Hovland truther. And then it's Siwoo for me. I can't get past the fact that Kuchar looked so bad on approach last week. Kirk didn't look that good either.
What was last week? The players.
Or I'm sorry, not the players, not the Valspar.
Yeah. Well, his last tournament, yeah.
Yeah, their last tournament. So I'm all about Hovland and Siwoo Kim. So at this with this group, I'm just okay. I have a problem playing Kuchar, and it has nothing to do with the no tipping thing. It's a strokes gained old thing, and maybe I'm biased, but like I don't want Kuchar to win because the guy's like damn near 103. And like I just don't want to watch Matt Kuchar on a Sunday. I'm not like the nostalgic, oh my God, look, it's Kuchar again, like blah blah blah. The only nostalgia I want in my life is Tiger winning the Masters, which ain't gonna happen, right? It's not gonna happen again. He had his limelight, he did it once, it ain't gonna happen again. So I can move on from Matt Kuchar, and I get it. Like there's tons of reasons to play Kuchar. His elite approach game, right? Pretty decent on Pete Dye courses, but I just
So I've got a thing about Kuchar. I've been on him a lot since the Sony, pretty much, and I think I've noticed that his issue on approach is when he can't miss anywhere. If there's water, he's in shit. And I don't know, there's not that much water here compared to what they've just come from, right? So like if you think about all the times he's played, like he played well at the Genesis. It's not a lot of water around there. Like he knows he's got such a good short game. He can miss the green in a 360-degree radius and be completely fine. Whereas if there's water somewhere, he's almost guaranteed to hit the ball in the freaking water, dude. Like that's what he's been doing on approach. So at the Honda, at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, he did all that crap where he was just bombing it into the juice. Like I think one of the water holes he hit in the water like 3 times a week. It was just ridiculous stuff. So you get to the Sony, not as much water, guy plays nicely. So I don't know how much water there is around this place. There's a few, but he's played well, yeah. And you play Kuchar when he plays at Kuchar courses. So I'm in on Kuchar. We haven't agreed on too much this week.
I will say this about this group. This is probably a group I fade.
Okay.
Because the group is so strong. In terms of match play, right? Kuchar is an elite match play player. you can see Kirk all of a sudden turning it on Bermuda grass greens and dominating. Like, say what you want about Victor Hovland. If he's dialed in on approach, he could win and come out of this group.
Yeah.
And Siwoo Kim could just get hot. So, like, I think this is a really hard, like, we talked about group 2 when we get back to Rahm and everything like that. But I would argue that this group picking a winner is probably even more difficult than just like, okay, I'm gonna lay it all on Jon Rahm. Like, there's a lot more arguments for Chris Kirk to come out of here. There's a lot more arguments for Kuchar to come out of here than, like, say, those other groups that we've already discussed.
Well, I mean,
that's where like we talk about strength of group, and so this is a group where I will stay away.
I agree. I think I'm going to pick. I like Cooch, so I'm going to go with him a little bit. But I've got these average odds here for each group to win, and they've got the second worst odds here of this left-hand column. So this is also, it's like close to the death group because they're all pretty solid. Just like a bunch of really good to great golfers, no elites. I don't know if you want to call Victor an elite, but everyone in here could definitely get out of there for sure. It's not like but also this next one is interesting, dude. Colin, Jason Day, Svensson, Victor Perez. Anytime Colin's in Colin and Jason Day are, like, to me right now, just seem like the exact same people. Not from a profile perspective, but from a competitive, like they just don't seem like they have it. And that's what Scotty is so impressive, dude, is whenever he's leading a tournament, he just shuts that fucking door so hard. Whereas Spieth, water ball, Colin, chunk, skull, Jay Day, just great first round, can't ever get anywhere close to doing it. But match play, what are you feeling?
Well, you got to give him some credit. I mean, Jason Day has won 12 times on tour. I mean, he just doesn't fade away on Sunday.
Recently, what have you done for me now?
Oh, well, he had a bad back for you now. I mean, that's what's gone recently. He's had a resurgence this year. I don't know who he saw, what trainer he's talking to.
Yeah.
But like, Jason Day's looked good this year, and I don't think he becomes like a secret anymore, like without a doubt. But for me right now, like I said, I like to pick a guy who I think is going to win, and I like to pick a guy who I think is like a long shot. I would take Svensson right now.
I like that.
Because he is, like, he can't dial in on approach. Like, if you're going to take their best game versus one another, Morikawa versus Svensson, there's no chance Svensson can ever win on his best day. And Morikawa's best, like, it's just not going to happen. But, like, the difference is that Morikawa can't putt. We've watched this now all year long.
Yes.
And in match play, putting is so pivotal.
Yeah.
And so I would rather take Svensson and Jason Day and fade the 9,500 Morikawa.
Yeah. I'm totally on board with that too. And it's a shorter golf course too. Svensson loves those short tracks. It's also so cheap, and I think in match play, literally one day can make the biggest difference, right? Like you said, if you peg Colin up against Svensson 10 out of 10 times, you're probably going to beat him 8 times. But we're only looking for 2, right? Essentially. So I like him. I like him a lot too. So, and this group is one of the easiest to get out of, essentially. I don't know, this Victor Perez guy from the Euro Tour.
Victor Perez looked good on Euro Tour. He won the Abu Dhabi, and then I think he finished top 30 in the subsequent 4 tournaments after. I faded him last week because of the ownership. Yeah. I even put him on my can't do it list. He finished 45th, so it was a good call. But he's a good player.
I know. And it's interesting because, like, Tommy has won multiple times in South Africa, in freaking Europe, but just, I don't know, how do these Euros translate to getting over to America? It's an interesting thing, and I'm going to, like you said, wait for the ownership there and see, but I'm in on Svensson. Maybe I'll be in on Jason Day as well. I think, I think Colin's just a rubber duck in the pond here in this group. So we'll see what he can get up to. Patrick Cantley, Brian Harman, KH Lee, Nick Taylor. Group pod number 4. This one has got the average odds to get out of this group with a Patrick Cantley at 20-1 is 105-1 for the average, which is really bad. Patrick Cantley's 3 opponents average 133-1. So 107, 90, 90. So interesting situation. Are you going to play? I mean, he's got to be super chalk this week, right?
Oh, this group, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like they don't really compare, right? Like Cantley, like we've looked at every group and we're like, okay, I get it. But now we get to Harman, Nick Taylor, and KH Lee, the Cantley, and it just, yeah. Okay. It kind of feels like a free square.
I was going to say that.
But then, like, what I hate about the match play with a free square, it's like, what if, like, you just and like this is totally. I always think about this when I think of free square. Jason Kokrak. It was like 2 years ago. I was all invested. I don't even remember the tournament, but like I was all invested, and I'm out golfing with my buddy who knew Kokrak's roommate from college. And he goes, "Oh yeah, he's getting married this weekend. Kokrak's his best friend. He ain't making the cut. He's going to the wedding." I was like, "Oh my god, it was brutal."
That's what happened with Ben Taylor this weekend. Came in hot off the wedding. Like, just these things. These are humans, and you're only betting on one of them. So yeah, free square or not, man, it's scary.
All right. Well, let's take the free square out of it. Like, we shouldn't have to talk about Cantley. Like, yeah. I'll talk about like KH Lee. He looked good last weekend at the Valspar. So did Nick Taylor. Like, if we're going to take a recent form into account, I would take those two over like someone like Brian Harman. I guess the advantage you get in Harman is that he's a great putter on Bermuda, right?
Yeah.
Has the ability to score, but it's match play. We're not too concerned about scoring at this point.
Yeah. And Harman's irons to me are just, oh God, dude. Like, I don't know. You need irons, bro. You know, like you can't be like substandard iron player.
I agree, but he does pretty awesome on Pete Dye courses.
See, I'm if I'm gonna pick someone in this box, I'm gonna go with Nick Taylor. I feel like he's been trending so nicely, dude. I'm
gonna change my opinion. I think because of Harman's success on Pete Dye courses. I don't remember the exact placement, but I know he does really good on the Dye designs historically, to where is Harman, yeah, where I would take him for that advantage, like the sight lines, the approach play, the scoring. Like I'm going to take him on a Pete Dye course over Nick Taylor and KH Lee. I mean, even at the players, like Harman made the cut, finished 44th, right? But Nick Taylor, KH Lee missed the cut. So like our free squares can't lay, but I feel like Harman, if a guy's gonna play it right here at this course, it would be him, especially with this group.
That's fair. So do you think with Cantley in this group, you can't imagine Brian Harman and Nick Taylor going to be that different in ownership, though? I feel like, you know, they basically, all three of these guys are going to be super low.
Nick Taylor will be lowest.
Yeah. So I'm in on Nick, dude. You and I are a great duo for this, because we're gonna love every single person on the show, because we don't like anything that either person likes. What about Nick Taylor's a problem? Like this guy, I think he just finished T10 last week. Again, like he's just racking up results right now.
Nick Taylor, like last week, he finished 10th place, but then you look at him at the Players Championship, which is obviously Sawgrass, Dye design, missed the cut. API, where you could argue that the field we saw there, you can kind of equate that challenge to what we're seeing here. He missed the cut. And then before that, we didn't see him until the Genesis, where he finished 33rd. The WMPO, the incredible second place finish. So he's got that going for him. But I Not into it. Not into Nick Taylor like I am with like the history that Brian Harmon has on Pete Dye courses.
Okay. Hey, I mean, we bring in the people what they need. Yeah. So I think we've got all our bases covered. If you're looking to play Brian Harmon, we've got that. I love Nick Taylor this week, dude. Turns out Patrick Cantley's the free square though, so we'll see what he gets up to. Sam Burns, Seamus Power, Adam Scott, Adam Hadwin. 2 Adams and 2 Sams, basically. 88, 72, 78, 75 in this pod number 13. Sam Burns, dude, that guy at goddamn Innisbrook. Win-win 5th. Just backdoor top 5, top 6 or whatever. Incredible stuff. Like, he's a unicorn, man. He's a unicorn at that venue. Insane. I've got Seamus Power 110-1 to win this thing. I think he made it to the Elite 8 last year and has been rattling off top 25 finishes. I think went 8 straight before he missed the cut made the cut at the API and played some of the worst weekend golf I've ever seen in my life. I think he finished at like 12 over par for the tournament. And then at the Players, I think he missed the cut. I was heavily invested in him again there. So I'll be in on him again here. Who are you think people are going to go to Sam Burns again? I mean, after last week, or is that just a course history thing?
It's pretty easy to go to Burns, right? 6th last week. You know, you could say Hadwin, but he missed the cut. I guess the thing Hadwin does have going for him is that, you know, he finished 13th of the Players. So you're looking to Pete Dye courses, but it feels kind of like another one of those free squares with Burns. But honestly, with the 4 of them, this is probably a group I'm going to fade. Like if I had to pick, it would probably be Burns and Hadwin. Like
we're gonna have to find a group that we can agree on today.
Well,
what's wrong with Seamus?
One of us is winning and one of us is losing this weekend. That's pretty apparently.
Yeah, I agree.
Seamus has shown a continuous flaw in his putting on Bermuda grass greens. It's just been getting worse and worse and worse and worse statistically. So, like, I'm just not on board with a guy in match play who has a putter that he's questioning on a particular surface. That's my problem with Seamus Power. Now, can it turn around? Absolutely. Like, it can. And I would be more inclined to be like, yeah, I'm going to roster Seamus Power if I saw improvements in his approach game or in his ball striking. Like, he ranks 54th in this field on approach.
Yes.
Like, I'd rather go Adam Hadwin, who ranks 20th.
I agree. So Seamus is a thing because in the models, he doesn't grade out well until you throw scoring into the mix. Birdie or better, bogey avoidance, par 5 scoring.
But why are you considering scoring? Why are you considering bogey avoidance? They don't give a fuck about getting a bogey.
His birdie or better percentage is pretty solid too. That's the thing though. Like he doesn't grade out when you piece together the approach and stuff. He just gets the ball in the hole. It's like this old school type of golf that he just does, and he just gets it in there. Like you don't finish inside the top 25 for 8 straight events on tour and be a bad golfer. You know, like, and that's the thing that I've tried to learn about myself because I'm like always model centric. He's all the way down in the models all the time for me because he's approach play. It's bad. It is bad. But when it fires, it fires. I don't know. It's like, it's weird. He just scores. So
I can't see this. Like, I'm not model centric. That's where it is. Like, if you're going to take these 4 guys, right?
Yeah.
And you need these 4 guys to have just a front 9 of your life. Like, isn't Seamus Power last man in of these 4?
I don't know. The immediate thing I think of is the Genesis, where he just went on a tear on Saturday and then made a triple, like knocked one out of town. And then that ended his like run. He was cruising inside the top 10 at the Genesis, dude. Like, I don't know. I've got a thing for Seamus. I think he's awesome. I'd pick Sam Burns obviously first there though, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I guess the good thing he has going for him is he lives in Nevada, right? So he's kind of playing in like similar styles that we'll see in Austin.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, you don't have to like him. Obviously, we've established this now so far. So tell me who do you like the most here and why in this outside of Seamus?
Well, like if we're looking at just like sheer approach play, like Hadwin on the year has looked really good in terms of his approach. Recently, it's been a little bit different, and we've seen like a resurgence of Sam Burns. But like if I were going to pick between the two, it'd be Burns and Hadwin, and then I would not play Adam Scott in Seamus Power.
Okay.
Like I can't go with Seamus Power, who missed the cut at the Players Championship, which was a Pete Dye course, coming to a Pete Dye course and saying, okay, yeah, I figured him out. Like I can't jump on board it. Watch, I hope he wins, like for your outright. Like I hope he does. Like and then, like you make a ton of money. Like I'm not saying that. Like I hope I'm wrong for your sake.
Yeah, no, I'll take a Max Homa W. That's to me is the guy we really going to be rooting for. And speaking of, let's get to him. Max Homa, 25-1. Bet Rivers, enhanced odds, 25-1. Love Max Homa. Haven't hit a single winner on Max Homa. I've been on him a million times. He's won, 3 times since the 40 net. Never can get him right. So I'm constantly on him. I've had Keegan Bradley in the 2 times Max Homa has won. Keegan finished second at the Wells Fargo at Potomac. I had Keegan. And then you finished second at the Farmers. I had Keegan and Max won. So it's just this horrible curse, and I can't figure out what's going on. But I love his President's Cup performances, Max. But also his just general game is just so solid right now. Like the guy's floor is ridiculous, playing some incredible golf, and I don't think he's getting that respect. He's like, what would you rate Max Homa as in the world right now?
I personally think Max Homa's in the top 10. But
top 10.
But
so who's better than him? John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler,
Rahm, Rory.
Okay.
Cam Smith, even though he's on live.
Okay.
What is that, 5?
4. Yeah.
Well, 4 because Cam Smith doesn't count. And then I would throw
Patrick
Cantlay, even though he likes to lick windows. And
Xander?
No, I would not throw X. I think something's really messed with his back. Same with Zalatoris. I think so. I think I'd throw Homa there, right at number 7.
Number 7. Okay. Yeah. I don't know, man. I almost want to say he's better than Rory right now, but I'm also being a massive homer there. So, but I would definitely put him inside the top 5 without Cam Smith, and Cam would be in the top 5 there with me too. But his group is interesting, man. It's got some weird volatile dudes. Got the OG Matchplay magician Kevin Kisner. Got Justin Suh, who's, if you check his shot, like you need to check his shot track on an iPad because that shit is just all over the place when you track him. And then Hideki is also the same guy. Like, just what are you going to get from Hideki? Because when you play Showdown, you just know you play Hideki in round 3 and 4. Makes the cut, you play him in round 3 and 4. That's what he does. Can you do that in match play? Is he consistent enough to play good match play golf for 7 days?
For me, I love Decky here. Like, and this is strictly an ownership thing. People don't play Hideki Matsuyama. They just don't. They don't. And maybe it's different in this group. Like, you have Max Homa. I don't think he's a secret anymore like he was.
No.
Does that make sense?
Correct.
So, like, Decky's not going to get the respect that he deserves. He never does. Everyone's going to fade Justin Suh because it's Justin Suh. And they're going to look at Kisner's recent results here at this specific tournament, so that'll garner some ownership.
Yeah. So I'm asking because you are big on Scott. So what's the difference between Max and Scotty? as in for this group, not as like a player, but relative to their peers. Like, would you not say that the average odds in Max's group are 10 points higher, which is not necessarily that significant, and most of that is due to Scotty. But Kisner and Sir just don't scream the same as Tom Kim and Davis Riley to me.
Well,
maybe you can throw a Decky in there as like an equivalent of Tom Kim, but I don't know. Like, he's so inconsistent.
I would detract this from Max Homa. He's 31 years old, and he's won 5 times on tour. And it's not like to win on the PGA Tour is impossible. We know that.
Right.
But to be at this point in your career and to only have 5 wins, you kind of are who you are. Like there like here, for example, like what, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, the DFS darling of Tommy Fleetwood, right? You are who you are. Tony Finau, as much as we continue to play him and roster him, is Tony Finau. I am not one to believe that Tony Finau doesn't win more on tour because he has bad luck. If that makes sense. I'm just looking at this from a perspective of, like, if you're going to compare group with Scotty Scheffler and the talent that is Scheffler versus Max Homa, and I'm not saying Max Homa can't win a major. I think he can, but I know Scotty Scheffler wins majors and probably should win more. I would not be surprised if Max Homa ends his career 10 years from now without a major championship. And that's a big difference.
Okay, that's fair. This isn't a major championship.
It's not. This is the match play,
right?
Which is a completely different ball game. I agree with that, but we're talking the difference between one group versus another, or the pedigree of one group versus another, and I think that's it. Wouldn't you tend to just, if I were to give you just without any numbers, without any stats, without data,
Scotty, yeah.
Right. And I was good. Well, let's just look at this group specifically with Max, Decky, Kisner, and Saw. And I say, okay, this guy's won this many times. This guy's won this many times. Oh, but this guy, he won the biggest fucking tournament that you can win. Who are you going to pick?
Okay, that's valid.
So
Decky, obviously, yes.
And then the second thing I would say is, oh yeah, and that guy who won that tournament, the last time we saw him play golf 2 weeks ago, looked really, really good at it. That's where I would lean towards Decky. And now we get DFS, and we're talking about ownership, and yeah, I'm going to go straight to Decky.
Okay. No, that's fair. I can get, you see, I think it's so fun about DFS because you can think of it in that way too, because what I'm thinking of Max Homa is someone that went pretty much toe-to-toe with, at the time, the world's best golfer, Jon Rahm, before Scotty, or arguably 1A, 1B. He went toe-to-toe with him. Yes, it was around his favorite golf course in the world. Sure. But if you think about, I think Max was hanging tight with DJ last year around here. He almost, gave him a run. It wasn't like he got steamrolled. And that was a year ago's Max. And I know you mentioned you are who you are. But dude, if you look at what this guy's trajectory has been like, dude, on the ball striking front, on the putting front, just every aspect of his game is just, it's like trending so hard. But you are who you are until you are who you aren't, right? So he's got majors coming up soon. He's going to prove it or not. And it's going to be fascinating. I've got an 80-1 Max Homa Masters ticket, buddy. So we're going to see if that happens or not. Yeah,
good number.
It is a good number, but I feel like I'm gonna have to bite the bullet on an 81 Scheffler just to protect that a little bit. But I don't.
You should have done the double bet.
The what?
The double bet. You know what the double bet is?
You
bet it twice.
So what, Scott?
So you bet one to cash out.
Ooh.
And you bet one to win, and you hold on to it.
Ooh.
The double bet.
Ooh. The things you learn with Michael Kavaliunas on the podcast. That's interesting. A little mini hedge. I like it. I've never thought of that before.
Oh, that's a Stu Bega special.
Oh my god!
If you don't know who Stu Bega is, you follow him on Twitter. He picks winners all the time, but he's all about the double bet.
Ooh, dude, I had Spieth's ticket waiting. Like as he went on to 16, I had that thing looking at a third of the price of the cash out, and I was just like, I should have had a double bet. I'm going to start doing that now. We'll see. We'll see what we can get up to. Because then you don't even have to. Oh, this is genius. Anyway, moving on to the next side of the board. Yeah. Group 2.
I will say this. If you're only double betting on DraftKings, yeah, that's a bad idea. They don't offer money cash outs.
FanDuel, dude. Yes. They're the way. And their cash outs are so shit on DraftKings, dude. They're ridiculous. Like immediately you put your bet in, it's $10 bet turns into $250. It's like hot garbage. So the worst average odds in the field is this group. This is the group of death. Legit. Like even with John Rahm in there. And like we mentioned, Ricky Fowler, he's your guy. I agree. I think Ricky is fantastic. You think anyone clicks on Billy Horschel's name?
Of course.
After with the course history, you think that's what people are doing?
Match play history, course history. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So I mean, do you even pick a name in there, or do you just move along from this group?
Like I said, I liked Rahm, I liked Ricky. Beyond that, I'll probably fade this group.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we pretty much brushed over this one already. So Cam Young, Sepp Straka, Corey Connors, Davis Thompson. 92, 61, 79, 62. Average odds, double the group above them at +1 at 105. So it's quite the group, yeah. Cameron Young, new caddy on the bag. Got Webb Simpson's old caddy. If you think about how good Webb Simpson's short game is, if that caddy brings anything to the party that Webb did, that's the only part of Cameron Young's game that's a problem right now. Love me some Cameron Young this week. Couldn't quite get that 40-1, betting 8 guys. You know, that's why I wore the clown wig as well, because that's what do you think of that strategy, by the way? We're deep into the pod now, so but what do you think of betting 8 dudes?
It depends on your expected value. Like if you do the mathematics and one of them hits and like you're going to get the profit that you're looking for, then yeah, it makes sense. But it really kind of just determines how it works out mathematically within your whole gambling profile. Like you're looking at just long shots, then yeah, that's one thing. But it could hit, it could miss. I'm more of a looking at this tournament to see what they provide for live betting, because like a guy could come out of a group if he pushes and his odds go down. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I mean, it worked out for you last year, almost.
Steamroller Scotty though, just I think the main reason I do it is to get the out of the pod, especially at those odds. Someone that's a 4 seed is going to essentially get out of there. Hopefully,
that's true.
You know, like, so I've got 8 of them. One of them isn't, like Max is obviously not anywhere near there, but I got Corey Connors at 80-1. I'm not entirely sure that's a bet that too many people can even find out there anymore. I'm not entirely sure, but he's also got great course history. I played nicely, came consolation bracket winner last year. So his putter it's a concern, but when it's match play, I think he changes it up a little bit. And he's not nearly as tentative on the greens. Like we said, if he's got a par putt that he has to roll through, I think he can do it just fine. So I like Corey Connors here, $7,900. Sepp Straka, one of these guys that I think if you're looking for a leverage play, just
dialed in on approach recently.
Yes, dude. Yes, and his putter, he can be electric on the greens, dude. He's one of, when he's rolling, he can roll them in, man. So who are you liking in this range of this pod number 15?
I like Cam Young. I like Step Straka. I like Corey Connors. I like the three guys here. That's one of the rare instances where I do. But gonna stay away from Davis Thompson. But like, I'm gonna keep continuing to bet Cam Young to win a tournament. This was my goal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna miss that number, so I'm gonna keep betting Cam Young. I could see Sepp Straka getting through here, but we'll see. So who knows?
So I'm just restarting my thing here quickly because it's not working on me. I couldn't quite scroll. Cool. Yeah, go do your thing. We've been having a few beverages. This pod has taken a hot minute, but I appreciate your time, Bad. Take your time out there, do your little tinkle. I'll get you back in the show. If you've made it this far, send me a message. Send it in the chat. It's an hour 40 long pod be rocking and rolling with you. But I felt like we provided some good rainmaker information. Not a lot of people have info out there that we can really rely on, and I thought Michael was a great resource to bring in. So just making sure that I had someone reputable that could bring some info to us and make me a smarter rainmaker player, and hopefully you too. And even if you're not into rainmakers, hopefully that's what you were looking to get into at some point. And it's a lot of fun. Like getting in early and not having to worry about ever buying another guy again for a little while is awesome. My Excel is broken. It's what's going on here. So we might have to just go through this pod with flying free, folks. So it is what it is. We've got some dead air going on, but it's been a long one. I've had, look at this. We've had 3 bush light situations here. It's quite the situation we got going. Got the clown wig, took that off, and the Excel is still not working, folks. But we're back in business now a little bit. We can't scroll. It's not scrolling on us. So that's the problem. But in this pod number 7, I'm going to start walking through until Mike gets back. It is, if you go read Rotoballer's 10 questions to ask, this is the pod that I called the Divine Delivery. Thank you. Let me open up a new Excel sheet. That's a great idea. Thank you, my bad. Let's do that. See what's cooking here. But this is the Divine Delivery pod. Not podcast, Divine Delivery pod that these golfers are in. Willie Z sitting at 35-1, Ryan Fox 125-1, Harris English 110-1, and Andrew Putnam 210-1. Will Zalatoris' average odds of opponent is 148-1. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I'm not entirely sure what they were thinking when they put this pod together, but it is what it is, and that's what we're getting. So I was just telling the people, those Guinnesses, you were great. How many Guinnesses are you into?
I'm almost out of beer.
Almost out of beer?
I think I'm like 4 or 5 deep. Like, I'm going to have to drink this.
Hey, you know what?
It's been a good time.
It has been. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, like once you're into the deep pod, I mean, whatever. You know, it is what it is. We've been on this so long that my Excel's not even scrolling. I'm trying to scroll here and it's not doing it. So we're gonna have to try to remember what exactly was going on. But you're gonna have to pull up the bottom of these guys for me because I'm not entirely sure I can do it right now. But I hope your piss was nice. And we were talking about the Divine Pod, the pod that includes Will Zalatoris, Ryan Fox, Harris English, and Andrew Putnam. Talk about one of these doesn't look like the other. What are we doing here? I like Harris English. I've got an outright on Harris English sitting at a casual 120-1 or so. And I'm going to probably play him in some DFS as well.
When we talk about like what the difference between these 4, like
yes,
Zalatoris long term is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
But recently we've seen these guys probably just on the same level, I would argue.
Oh yeah. Like what he's done recently has been hot garbage.
So I'm going to side on like who's been putting for me lately. And Andrew Putnam on Bermuda Services is the way to go.
Oh, baby. I think we can be in agreement there, bud.
I mean, that like Nothing against Zalatoris. Like I still think he's in play for like Augusta, but like you talk about a guy getting out of this group just because he can putt better than the other three without question. And not that one of them can't get hot, but Putnam's the guy for me here, especially at min price 6K.
Yes, dude. He's min price 6K, and he's on a much shorter golf course now. He does he's so short off the tee. You know, that's the thing. So I think if you're going to go to a golf course where short game is imperative, let's freaking go. Let's roll Andrew Putnam out there. Absolutely agree with you. Who's the other two? It's Harris English as well. Same situation, man. He can get hot and cold so fast. Like any minute he can just pull through and just absolutely do what he did at the Players. So if you're going to give me a guy that's super low owned and can give me a Players performance again, sign me up. You know, especially at that price, I doubt he's going to be nearly as owned as Willie Z. You think Willie Z is going to be that popular even with all the crap he's been up to lately, or?
No, I don't. I think people have plenty of other options than going down to Zalatoris. But that's another like game theory play. You could say like, okay, no one's playing Zalatoris. I will.
Yeah.
So could be an option for some guys who are interested in that.
We haven't. I'm going back to have we ever seen him do anything on Matchplay before? But it's something that we haven't. I don't think he's played because he should have made the President's Cup, but his back was broken, so he was Mike Tysoning it from the side, and that's what you get. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. Luckily I got a screenshot from a while ago, so we're going to roll with this. I don't know. I think I'm going to roll with Putnam. I agree with you, dude. I think he's definitely live. And also I've got a Harris English outright. So
it only took 11 groups, so we finally agreed.
Yeah, I know. On Andrew Putnam, min price Andrew Putnam. Well, let's get out of this one and disagree in the next. So Tony Finau, Kurt Kitayama, Adrian Maronk, and Christian Bezuidenhout. Bezzy, what do you like? So if you're a short-term ball striking kind of guy, what would you suggest, especially after we heard that Bezuidenhout's got a new coach and his ball striking was cooking at the Players, man. But I just don't think he can. I think he's going to be barely owned, and there's a lot to like from him. Short game, also very good putter. Thoughts?
Agreed. Good decent on P-Dye courses, right? Not great, but decent. Mm-hmm. Better than Kitty and better than Maronk. One could argue that Finau is not necessarily a free square here, but should come out of this group, right?
Oh, yeah.
If we're going to talk about Bez, at the Players, like Finau finished 19th. So, it's between the two of them. Arguments for like not playing Bez. He's a great Bermuda putter, decent enough on P-Dye courses, like I kind of already mentioned. I guess the only thing I'm kind of curious about is like, yeah, he does have a new swing coach. He did look better, but he's still kind of just ahead of the pack in terms of approach. I think he ranks 24th in the field in 2023, which, I'll take at this point.
Yeah.
Missing fairways at a pretty good clip though. So okay. I don't know if that'll come back to haunt him. But with that, like if you're gonna play him in a GPP, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And what about Kurt, dude? Like he's like peaking and up. His rocket is one of those that just you can see it flying through the air, but it's like in a zigzag. It's not straight to the moon. It's going via Mars and Neptune and stuff. But he's interesting. He just freaking won the API. So with Tony Finau in this pod, it's interesting because Kurt's got that length where he can absolutely. What do you think of length at this course as well? I think we're hour 50 in and talking about what we won off the tee here, but there's a lot of 250 plus shots coming in. That drivable par 4. I think the first hole, if the wind's blowing in the right direction, you can get pretty close to getting to that green. 18 is drivable if the right wind direction. So, distance is definitely advantage, but we've seen guys obviously with the short game that can really tidy up. But I like bombers yet.
I'm not like with this course, I'm not necessarily leaning towards bombers or one particular type of style because the greens are so small.
Okay.
And you miss some of these greens, like you're in some really punishing positions. I think it was like Horschel against Spieth. He missed the green and he could have like went up and down, but he's like, he just goes to Jordan. He's like, let's go to the next hole. I feel like it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Because he knew where he was at, going for it, trying to score. Like he was just screwed. Like he just had no shot.
Yeah.
Like you would have to hit a miraculous. I would have to go back and look at that. I looked at it actually on Saturday last weekend. So yeah, bombers can hit longer and they can get aggressive, but then also that lends itself to mistakes. So that lends itself to the greenside bunker where you don't want to be in because you hit a draw when you wanted to hit a fade, and now getting out of that where the pin is leaves you with a 2-putt and you end up parring when he ends up getting on in 3 and ends up getting a birdie.
Fair. Yeah.
So, and I think like we talk about the Players Championship, we talk about like any die course, and most of them just tailor themselves to all facets of golfer, to where you don't necessarily have to lean on one style or another. Like when Scheffler won, obviously he won it by hitting fairways and having distance and dominating those par fives, but that was just that day.
No, dude. That's a very good point. I was just, pretty much talking shit out of my ass there with Kurt Kitayama. But once my model froze and my whole brain has just gone pear-shaped. So now we're back, like it finally fired up again. So we back and I'm in my comfort zone. I like Bezzy, and I think Tony, like we mentioned, but goddamn, dude, Tony has been so frustrating. He's been so frustrating. He's just been rattling off top 20 finishes, but that's it. Like outside of maybe even the Farmers, like he was riding contention there and just blew that one. Like I went into the Farmers thinking Tony was going to win it for me. Next thing, Keegan finishes second. Like that was just the most random turn of events that I could ever have imagined, but he's also like, I don't know. I think he fucking stumbled into a few wins in the fall swing, in the Midwest over here. And I don't know if he's got what it takes, man. So
I actually like Finau here because we talk about recent form being such a big plus. Like, sure, you look at it from a tournament perspective, you want him to do better, especially if you roster him. But you can't really argue that, with the exception of Scheffler and Rahm, that there hasn't been anyone as consistent as Tony Finau, which is a plus for this kind of event. Like he's trusting his shot, he's trusting his swing. If he's dialed in on approach, he's going to have short putts. So Finau looks good in this spot.
Yeah, he does. And his tee to green game is so solid, dude. Like that's the thing. I think you're not going to beat him with a par. I think that's where his strength lies here. And he makes enough birdies too. So I agree. And he's also, look at these odds, average odds of 105 to get out of this group. It's nuts. So let's go with Finau too. I like that. Rory Keegan, Denny, and Scott Stallings. Rory McIlroy, man. What are we doing with Rory, bro? Like what are we doing with him? Like, what are we doing with Rory?
He is. With this group, why would you not go with Rory McIlroy?
Yeah.
But
outside of maybe Denny, like you said, the pro and then the pivot would be Denny.
Right. So, I'm not really heavy into Rory right now. You got guys in here that can most definitely compete in a match play setting, like with Keegan, right? I would even argue Keegan Bradley's a better Pete Dye course player than Rory McIlroy is, and that's saying a lot. But I'll go on record saying Keegan Bradley's a better Pete Dye player than Rory McIlroy is.
Okay.
Recent form would say play Denny McCarthy. He looked pretty decent last weekend. Finishing top 20, finishing 19th actually, but he had the crap end of the weather draw, if there was one.
Right.
So he's looked really good recently, 13th at the Players too, following the miscut at the Honda. So I don't know, man. Like, this is a tough group. Like, you got arguments, with the exception of Scott Stallings, to say, like, okay, Denny McCarthy could come out of this group. He's been playing really good golf recently, right? He's dialed in on approach. He is like dialed in on approach between all four of these guys. And I would say Denny McCarthy historically is probably the better Bermuda putter between the three. And then if you're going to look at like just Pete Dye courses, Keegan Bradley is the answer, in my opinion, versus Rory.
Right.
Wins, like win pedigree, you're going to go Rory McIlroy. What's he got? 21 wins on tour, I think.
Sure. Yes.
And 4 majors, so we'll go with that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Keegan's putter, man. So Denny and Keegan.
I'm surprised like all three of them are like foreign to Bermuda surfaces because they all live in Florida. Like, that's where you live. Like, you'd probably play Bermuda surfaces all day, yet they suck on it. But whatever. What were you saying? Sorry, my bad.
Oh no, you're good. Keegan's putter has only been good since like the Players last year. That's when he kind of broke out. And I think, a lot of people are looking at his match play record and history around here. You can't be old Keegan Bradley and play match play. You can't miss that amount of putts and win matches, right? But he's a much better putter now. Like, he's a remarkably better putter. A little bit more spiky. He's not consistent, but like from a match play perspective, he's got the ball striking there to potentially win a match, still losing strokes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not against Rory McIlroy or peak Denny McCarthy, but if he has that bad putting round against Scott Stallings and then putts well against the other two, I think he's in business. Like, I don't know. He's peculiar with the putter. It's when he walks to his caddy with it on his fingers like that. It's when it's hot, and it gets hot, and then it cools off very quickly. So
ownership's gonna be low on all of these guys. If you want to play the guy that is going to be, the pedigree guy, then you're going to play Rory. I just think there's plenty of upside to playing Keegan Bradley.
Let's go. Let's go. We've got one stipend per one agreement per side of the brackets, and it's Keegan Bradley and Andrew Putnam are our two collaborative plays that we will be going off together. Yeah. Okay. Tyrrell Hatton, Russell Henley, Lucas Herbert, Ben Griffin. Some interesting names in this one, bud. To me, Russell Henley is just off the boil. Guys, gone from being one of the best iron players in the world to very average. And I don't know if he can make enough putts for match play. I've got a Lucas Herbert 175-1 ticket. I had to pick a guy in this bracket, and I didn't have too much budget left, so I went with Lucas Herbert. And I just love he's also, if he's having a putting week, dude, guy's unstoppable. So got great short game. See what he can get up to. $6,300, and then Ben Griffin is also short game wizard, man. In the same part as a very popular Tyrrell Hatton, who's playing some good golf that I can never get behind Tyrrell Hatton. I hate Tyrrell Hatton with a passion. I'm taking it you love Tyrrell.
No, I this is probably a group I'm going to fade, but like I'm not a fan of Lucas Herbert because like for a GPP for a tournament, for if you're getting 4 rounds out of hopefully like getting a top 25, top 10, something like that, it makes sense. Hot putter. I just don't think a hot putter is the answer for a match play. if your approach game's off.
Okay.
Like, you still need to beat your opponent. And it, like, I get the only argument I kind of get is Ben Griffin. But beyond that, it's Hatton and Henley for me in this group. And Griffin only kind of fits that narrative because he's made 4 straight cuts.
Yeah.
So,
and then blew out and finished outside the top 40 last week as well.
Right. So, and it's not like he's killing it with approach. He's doing it with putting.
Yeah.
So that's what
really bad actually lately.
Yeah. So that's actually what leaves Griffin out for me and just leaves Hatton and Henley as the only option of this group.
You're not even, are you okay with Henley just being an average iron player?
I am, because last time we saw him at the Players, he looked really good with his irons.
Okay.
So we know how that can come into play. He's just striking it well right now, right?
Okay.
Granted, it's 4 rounds when we saw him at the Players, so it's not enough to quantify as like, okay, yeah, this is going to happen. But I mean, Joel Dahman won Corrales when he did after missing 7 to 8 cuts. So if you're going to tell me Russell Henley can't beat Terrell Hatton, Ben Griffin, and Lucas Herbert, I'm going to say no, he absolutely can.
No, I agree. From a long-term perspective, if he gets back to what he's going at, and I think this course suits him very nicely. It's relatively short, and there's a lot of shots under 200 here too, which is really interesting. And I think that's where Henley thrives. Xander, Tom Hoagie, Aaron Wise, Cameron Davis. This is a really cool group. I think there's a lot of opportunity in this group. I like the 3 underdogs, especially. I think I'm going to fade Xander and potentially play all 3 of these guys.
All 3?
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to have to. How much of Aaron Wise are you going to have to play to even get anywhere close to leveraging on that field? Like, I think what I wanted to mention earlier was, if you look at what Aaron Wise did, he was doing just fine at the Amex. 17, 18, 16, 17, 18. Like, triple, double. Like, the guy just makes these massive numbers. What did he do at the Players? 4 balls off the tee on the final hole. Like, that's 1 down. Move on. Let's go. I mean, he's not going to hit 4 balls in the water. He's going to only hit 2. Now the hole's over by then. So, like, I think his biggest issue is that blow-up hole. And I think he's got the game to still make birdies and stuff. He's been okay. And I don't know. Like, I think his issue is those big blow-ups. And I'm okay kind of taking a risk on him losing 1 or 2 holes to a triple and then playing the rest of the time fine. So I like him. And then Tom Hoagie, dude, just is he not one of the best iron players in the world right now? Like, holy shit. He finished T3 at the Players, like, losing strokes on Sunday on putting. Like, how do you do that? I might be wrong about the losing strokes on putting, but like, the putting was not good. And he's just doing it all on the ball striking. And I think he's one of these guys that can absolutely do it on the ball striking front to get it done. So Cam Davis is healthy. What are we doing with this group?
I'm not with you on Wise. I'm not going to play a guy whose irons are lost right now. And we kind of discussed this before. Like, I want him to miss cuts for ReignMakers purposes. And like, so maybe I got some personal biases there, but like, again, Cam Davis, with the exception of last week, has missed cuts. But I'll say this, like, Cam Davis was gaining strokes on approach, was just so bad with the putter. And like, it was costing him cuts. That's how bad Cam Davis was at putting.
Yeah.
Like, it was brutal. And he's been historically an okay average Bermuda putter. So, like, I could see taking some stock in him this weekend. Tom Hoagie, obviously, with his ability on his approach play. And the issue is his Bermuda putting is suspect at best. But I do think of this field right now, if we're looking at a Pete Dye course, I would take Hoagie, and then I would take Xander, and then I would take Cam Davis, and I wouldn't sniff Aaron Wise in that order.
No, I can totally see that logic too. It makes complete sense, but I do dumb shit, and I think like taking a chance on Aaron Wise is an interesting play. But I can totally get behind Hoagie and Davis for sure.
I just don't think it's the time to jump on Aaron Wise. Like I feel like Aaron Wise is the guy you take like after the Masters in the summer when everyone's already given up on him. And then he top fives. And then it's consistent top 5, top 10, top 5, top 10, top 20. And he figured it out. But then again, he's going against weaker fields, but he's properly priced in DraftKings. I'm just not there this week with Aaron Wise. And even at that price, there's better options in better pools.
No, I will rescind my comment. I will rescind my. I'll rescind.
You don't
my
have
Aaron
to do
Wise
that.
comment. Dude, we've disagreed on so much shit today, and I've been pretty adamant on my guys. I'm willing to take a step back off the Aaron Wise ledge here because I think what you said is there's so many better options, and I think that's also. I'm just looking at like a pod by pod basis here, and I haven't really built the lineup, so I think I'm getting a little carried away with, just a random 6K guy in a 4-man selection. I think you're right. There's definitely better. I'd definitely play Nick Taylor over Aaron Wise. Put it that way.
Fair enough.
So I agree with you. And Cam Davis for sure. All right. 2 hours and 6 minutes in, folks. We've arrived at the final group of this week's Dell Technologies Matchplay Championship. And it's Matt Fitzpatrick, Sahith Theegala, Minwoo Lee, and JJ Spahn. Sitting in pod number 11, 8,500, 8,076, and a min 6K for JJ Spahn. Sahith Theegala, 75-1 to win this tournament. Let's go. Talk about a volatile, get it in the hole kind of guy who's also, dude, have you seen what his wedges are like? Holy cow. He's one of the best wedge players on tour.
He's young too.
Yes. You like those youngsters, I tell you. That's if Max was 5 years younger, what would your opinion be?
Homa?
Yeah.
Well, we would most definitely be like upcoming multiple major, like we would hold them in the same regard, like, and he has like the same resume as someone of like a Scotty Scheffler. Yeah. Okay. Obviously we hold him in that regard, but it's just, you're 30, 31, you are who you are. And I'm not saying he's not going to win again on tour. I think he is. I think he could very easily get to 8, 10 wins on tour. But I'm just not so clear on saying, okay, Max Homa is going to be one of the best of all time. But this group,
yes,
this group, oh my God, like oof, it's like pulling teeth. Like, okay, first of all, you're going to have to pick one of these 4. And then second of all, when you're taking one of them, you're obviously planning on them at some point advancing further. At least you hope that. And I don't know if they can. Right? So, like, what are their advantages? You got Fitzpatrick and Minwoo Lee, who are able to putt on Bermuda like crazy. JJ Spahn's been putting a lot better recently. Historically, Theegala was a pretty decent putter on Bermuda, but all of a sudden these numbers are maybe kind of balancing out, and maybe he's not that good. Minwoo Lee has barely played on tour this season. He doesn't even have like stats that are accountable on the PGA Tour website. And the things that like we value, no one's dominating on approach, right? No one is dominating on Pete Dye courses. But then, of course, you have Minwoo Lee, who got 6th at the Players' Championship. Like it's like it's a clusterfuck of 4 guys, and you just like, what the hell do you do? So
I mean, JJ Spahn isn't easy. Like he's been nowhere. He's been absolutely nowhere lately. Like since he untucked his shirt in Hawaii, the guy hasn't showed up. Like so, I'm easy. Okay, like I'll play a min price someone else instead. Andrew Putnam. Let's play Andrew Putnam at 6K versus JJ. Like that's an easy situation there. So it's just got that upside, bro. Like I don't know, but is it consistent enough? That's a good. He's going to do it round in, round out.
Like between these four, Theegala interests me because you just don't know, right? And then Minwoo Lee because of recent form.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say that Minwoo Lee's recent form is really that good. Like he did it with the putter. He didn't necessarily do it with his approach play. So like that scares me as well. I guess Theegala is the most interesting because like
$8,000 as well. I mean, that's
Fitz is average to mundane at best on PGA courses. I'd rather just take the gamble on Theegala.
Yeah, I agree. I love Theegala. But I love, like the thing is with match play is he has one of those rounds where he shoots 64 and like roars up the leaderboard. That's going to win you one match. Like that's the thing, right? So what's he going to do 7 matches in a row? I'm not entirely sure, but he's live on every hole, you know, like he can chip in from about anywhere. You know, I think he's a fierce competitor where you get Matty Fitz, who's out here just, God damn, you know, like had a T20 on Fitz last week. I bet him T20 2 times. He missed the cut at the last week and Pebble, like in epic fashion. So I can just play Fitz and then everyone else cannot. And then, you know, he's going to definitely not leave the pod. So we can do that. But I love Spieth. Yeah. Love him. What you thinking?
I'm thinking that it's going to be a fun weekend. We got 2 tournaments.
Yes.
You got NCAA basketball.
Dude, it's going to be great. Do you have any bets for the match play yet?
I took outrights on Ricky Fowler.
What you getting at?
Oh man, I don't even remember.
Well, like what? I guess it's over. 60.
But
65, yeah.
It was around there. And then beyond that, I wasn't looking at too many outrights. I was looking more at placement bets, looking at people getting out of groups, and that's kind of what I'm focused on this week. And then with wins, I'm going to look at live betting odds. I think those numbers are really going to fluctuate, like especially if like for example, if like you can get a great number on Scheffler, let's say he draws that first round robin, and that number changes. I think there's going to be massive amounts of odds that are just going to be in a bettor's favor. So that and that's, I think that's just a smart way to go.
I love it. I think, you know, because you've got so much data and variables that you can take into account with this stuff, you know, like a draw is as long as the other guy, that's it. Like if you win your next 2 matches, you guaranteed a playoff at least, right? To get out of your pod.
Right.
Because there's no way someone's getting 3 points. So yeah, 2.5 is a guaranteed playoff, which you most likely is going to win. So I love that idea. He's not out of it at all. Okay, I'm with you. Should we chat a little bit of Corrales? Or
we can chat quick.
Yeah, let's chat quickly because I don't have too much. I know you wanted to.
Oh, I dove pretty deep into Corrales, but like I'll tell you my outrights right now, and I really hate myself for it. I got Griot at 35-1, and I took it.
I think I'm going to be right there with you.
I took MJ at 50-1.
Duffy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my long shot, I took Kevin Roy at 100-1.
Ooh. Okay. Kevin Roy. So MJ, I've got a Rainmaker MJ, and he's interesting, man, because he's got some serious length off the tee, dude. But he's also pretty solid when it comes to just keeping it in play. What do you like about MJ? I know what you like about Grillo, we all know, but what's MJ doing for you?
MJ here, he for him specifically, it's his approach play. And I think it's like an approach play course. But the thing I like about it is that like that course is really wind driven. So like he's a decent enough wind player for me in this field that we can most definitely take advantage of it. And that's kind of what I based the whole model on for this weekend. Bodie wants me to talk about Novak here, or wants us to talk about Novak. I will say this, like, I like Novak this weekend for DFS. I like him for gambling at odds if you can get him at like 55-1. Don't bet don't bet the Grio bet, but
he's my guy, dude. He retweeted my like outright post of him, and
he needs more guys. Grio, I can't even.
What's happened to his putter? How do you just go putt?
What do you mean? What happened to his putter? What do you mean? What happened to his putter?
Dude, he was putting so well, and then he just stopped putting well, like on a dime. I think he flew back from like Japan from the Zozo, and he's that day on, it's just been bad again.
He's not bad. Here's what I'll say about Novak. Okay, 27th to Valspar. Like, I love that. He's dialed in on an approach. He's a decent enough win player here, but he's an exceptional pass pound putter, where I think Novak is just a solid play. 50-1. If you can get him higher than that, go for it. Most definitely is an outright. DFS, I'm all in. Not quite sure on ownership for Corrales yet. I haven't ran it, but yeah, I love Novak as a play.
All right. Talk to me about Tyler Duncan. I'm kind of liking him this week as well. He's had some reasonable results around here, and I think his game's like trending in the right direction a little bit. I think he's like 40-1, which is a little steep, I would say, for Tyler Duncan, but also, I don't know. And then Michael Kim is my other guy that I had my eye
on. The thing with Tyler Duncan, he missed the cut at the Valspar. I do like guys who are coming in with a little bit better form here. I think Joel Dahman with him is like the one of the extreme cases where he was missing cuts like crazy, but then all of a sudden came out of nowhere to win the tournament. But you're also looking like at this price range. I would rather pay up the extra $400 than play Tyler Duncan. Like, Grio is Grio. Tyler Duncan's usually stuck in 6K hell if we have a real field, if that makes sense.
It is.
So other things that I like about Tyler Duncan, like 6th in this field in ball striking, but he's not going to miss fairways, and neither is anyone else. And what you're going to have to focus on is your approach play, and he does not fit the bill as like a top approach play player.
Which is like what we like about
47th in the field or something like that.
Okay. So I guess I'm off on Tyler Duncan then.
No, I mean, like, you can get hot, right? Play him if you like.
I know, and he's a coastal guy. You know, like when you see him playing nicely, he's usually doing it at these like coastal courses. So I'm not entirely sure if that's even a metric, but I don't even fire up a Corrales. It takes so much energy for me to fire up a model each week, so I'm not going to fire it up twice for a bunch of no good guys that I don't even. Yeah. So,
but that's how you make money. When you're too lazy and they're not, boom.
I know. I've got to write so many articles and stuff as well, and that's the problem. Is like I'm still trying to figure out how to balance everything. But I know I got Michael Kim. I think he's going to be my guy. 66. I think he's been cruising in the right direction. But so who's your dudes again for Corrales?
Grio,
yes. Who I might join you.
I'm actually really considering taking this Novak play because, like,
we've had 5 Guinnesses and it seems
option.
like a great idea.
He's only priced, like, at DraftKings, he's only priced at 7,800. That's a steal for a guy who's been playing so good, especially with the guys who withdrew. It looks good. And
Brody knows what he's talking about. Brody Fades. He's an interesting person on Twitter if you know who he is. I had to find out the long way that he's actually someone I'm very familiar with who's coming in here, fake alias. So Brody Fades, thanks for that. Yes, dude. This was a marathon, man.
Yeah, this hands down is my longest ever.
I know.
Holy shit.
Holy shit. I'm so sorry, but I'm also so thankful. And so, I mean, we covered a lot, you know. I felt like got to get in on ReignMakers early. I think there's a great opportunity now to do all that stuff. So I'm so appreciative of you sharing all your knowledge on that. And and then diving into the match play. I had some Excel deficiencies there. It was a great pod. So yes, tell the people. Cutline Golf. What else? What's cooking?
Yeah, Cutline Podcast. I think we've only missed one episode over the last 3 years just because we had some technical issues. And then, of course, you can go to cutlinegolf.com. Everything's free.
Yes.
I have provided for you guys you can download the models. I'm going to have 2 models this week, one for the match play, one for the crawlays. It is a stripped down version of what I use, but let me tell you, it's very informative. It's free. You download it, it goes to Excel if you know anything about it. On top of that, you can manually adjust it and do everything you want with it just to make it, fit to however you like. And then going from there, make sure you go to rickrungood.com. Best ownership in the business.
Absolutely.
Best information, best data points. Everyone who's stuck on Fantasy National, they don't have Live, they don't have the DP World Tour, all up-to-date stats. Yeah. Rick does it all, man, and he dominates.
Absolutely. And I want to just mention, I've been wanting to say it for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Your pod's one of the most well-edited pods I've ever listened to, man. And it's so funny and it's so great. So, there's a lot out there. I was just looking at Twitter as before we jumped on here, and people are just doing podcast after podcast out there. And yours is so different to so many people's. So, keep obviously, churning it out, and it's a great product. So I definitely endorse that and encourage people to listen along with me, because it's great. Those little audio snippets that you slide in there they're great, so they make me laugh and a lot of that. So I appreciate that from you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Cool. Well, this 2 hour, 20-minute long episode brought to you by Rotoballer. Go use code TOFF for 10% off there if you are listening still this deep into it all. And thanks, Mike, for joining me. It was a hell of a long podcast, but there's a hell of a lot of good information in there, and I had a hell of a lot of fun time doing it. So we are now out of Busch Lights and Guinnesses, but it was a good time, and we'll catch you guys. I don't think I'm going to do a pod tomorrow. We've done more than enough today, and we'll catch you guys next week for the Valera. Cheers.